All right, I've started recording.
Okay. All right, it's 5 o'clock. I'd like to call the April Airport Commission meeting officially to order. Mark, proof of posting and notices?
Posted on the front bulletin board as always, which I'm sure nobody is seeing these days. So we sent it out also via Notify Me to our list, and it's posted at the airport, I'm sure.
It is.
All the usual places, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. All right, next item is public comment. So I wrote a couple of notes. I wanted to make sure I got this out there. Public comment is designed to provide the commissioners and a community perspective of agenda items that we're going to vote on. So it's designed to be very focused and purposeful. As we've seen in some of the recent meetings, despite the agenda items, some people are raising topics that aren't listed on the agenda. This increases the likelihood that these topics are going to be discussed at a meeting that aren't listed on the agenda, thereby potentially violating the open meeting laws and disenfranchising people who might have wanted to attend the meeting for that particular topic. So I would implore the people making comment to take a look at what's on the agenda and make comment related to the agenda. And with that, let's start our public comment. Mark, go ahead.
I don't see any. Jenny has her hand up. Jenny Pavlovich. I'm sorry, I never know how to say your last name, Jenny. I'm sorry if I mispronounced
Jenny
it.
P.
Yeah.
It's,
Go ahead, Jenny.
nobody knows how to say it. That's okay. It's Pavlovic.
Pavlovic, okay.
So this, these are things I guess I'd like to see addressed at a future meeting. I have a question about what FAA guidance there is on fly-ins at non-towered airports, like a rock the ramp when 100 to 200 planes might be expected to arrive in a short period of time or leave the following day in a short period of time, and how that's handled with regard to any training flights that might be taking place, and just what the general plan is for safety in a situation like that. I know that's been discussed in past, or that rock the ramp topic has been discussed in a past meeting. And I also wanted to comment on something that was discussed in a past meeting and was kind of also misrepresented at the AMPAC meeting, I believe, is the flight tracking software that we've been using, how it can show a brief loss of signal versus a transponder being turned off in between laps of a training flight. When you're looking at the flight tracking software, if you see a plane doing a training flight that might be, say, making 10 laps, you would see 10 ovals of a path on a screen that are mostly overlaid over each other. If there's a brief loss of a signal, you can see the point where the signal is lost, and then the point where it's picked up again, there will be a straight line drawn between those two instead of the usual curved path. If on a lap, the transponder is turned off briefly and then turned back on, you'll see one lap, it'll get cleared from the screen, and then the next lap, you'll see another one, and there will be like 10 files of laps versus one file showing 10 laps. And I just wanted to be clear that it's really obvious on the flight tracking software when that's happening, and I know that's been misstated in the past, that it was pretty clear that people didn't understand that. And I guess that's a potential safety issue question that I have in relation to an event where there's a lot of planes coming in. And I don't know what the reason would be for doing that during a training flight. The only reason I can think of is to not be displaying multiple paths at once, but there might be another reason that would be done. I don't know how to get these on the agenda. If things aren't being addressed on an agenda, I don't know how how to get them on the agenda for a future meeting, that would be also helpful to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Mark?
I see no other hands raised.
Good.
Anybody else wish to speak to something on the agenda under this public comment?
Hello, this is Kathy Wolf. May I speak?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to share that over the past 2.5 to 3 weeks, I have been canvassing out here in the town of Middleton. And so I've had an opportunity to speak to over 7 neighborhoods of people, and also Airport Road, the people who live on Airport Road. And according to the contacts that I made, there were many people who have claimed that they've made significant ongoing reports about noise complaints. And so I wanted to just mention that I think it's been sort of reported numerous times that only about 5 to 6 regular people have made any noise complaints. And so I do have a concern about that and why that's happening. So I wanted to raise that as an issue, whether or not there is some way that we can have a definite record of when people call in, or including a record of when people file reports online. Maybe some of that is happening, but I recently filed a complaint myself, and unless those recordings are being saved, I'm wondering why there is such a big discrepancy. And at the last meeting, I was trying to discuss a few of the different things that have been of concern for those of us in the noise abatement, in the non-noise abatement zone. So there are those of us who live driving miles, about 4 miles out, but apparently by flying miles, it's closer to 2. But we're right on the flight path, and we don't really necessarily feel we have a voice. And it's really a concern when planes are flying 450 to 600 feet above our houses. And it's not just the noise, but it's also the safety concerns. And if you've been watching the news, there have been a lot of small plane accidents. One recent one, and you can go to YouTube and watch all of these, but one recent one where a plane hit a house and then bounced off, an SUV, and then hit a house. And then it showed the people running from their car on fire. It was a mother and a child. And this is the kind of fear that we live with as discussions continue about expanding activities at the airport, about large fly-in events, because we're on the flight path. We're in the town of Springfield, and we don't necessarily feel as though we have a voice in this process. And it's just, live with this as part of the environment in which you live in. And we've been here, over 30 years. And this was not the intent of the airport to move into this level of, in a densely populated area, this level of flights. So when you hear us get upset on the line, it's because we really feel pretty powerless and have a significant level of fear, not just about the lead, not just about the air pollution, and not just about the noise. There are certain things we can live with, but the fear has really created, I know for me, a lot of stress. And I spoke to plenty of people who expressed those same kinds of concerns. So I just wanted to share that information, particularly the feedback I was getting from neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark?
I see no other hands raised. Somebody just raised their hand, named guest.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
This is Cynthia Richardson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Super. So the draft March 4, 2021 Airport Commission minutes are incomplete and border on meaningless as the official public meeting record as it relates to public comment regarding agenda items. Public input referenced action item number 4 at the March 4, 2021 Airport Commission meeting, abbreviated event approval process request from Capital Flight, which I oppose. This information has been excluded from the draft 3/4/2021 Airport Commission minutes. I am requesting that a complete copy of my 3/4/2021 Airport Commission public input be included in the minutes, and I am happy to provide you with a copy of the same upon your request. You are a committee of public officials. When you are furnished with information by the public for the public's knowledge, you have an obligation to set it out clearly in the minutes. My statement on the danger that lead pollution from special events at Maury Airport presents to children in the city of Middleton is important information for parents and should be clearly set forth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I see no other hands up.
Okay, with that, we will conclude this section of the agenda and move on to approval of the minutes. I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to take a look at it and wait for somebody to make a motion.
John, this is Luke. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Luke has made a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Oh, this is Kevin. I'll second that.
Okay, Kevin did the second. So is there any discussion on the minutes? With that, I'd like to call the vote. All in favor of accepting minutes, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. I don't really have much to make comments on tonight. We did have a meeting on the lighting project today, Rich and I did, and they're still trying to figure out the magnitude of whether we're gonna, how far the money will stretch. And we talked about staging and when the airport will be open and closed. And I don't think any of that's been resolved yet. However, it does look like, I think next May is the possibility to do the work, but it has not been taken out to bid, so there's really nothing known there. So that's really all I have to say about the airport and activities that have transpired in the last month. Is there any questions about that from anyone? Okay, with that, we'll move on. Rich, airport manager's report?
Very good. Can everyone hear me? All right.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I'm not going to read the full report. I think everyone has a chance to look over everything, and for brevity's sake, there's no real point in repeating it. I do want to point out that if you look at the report of the noise overflights, there were 29, of which 13 were from one individual, 15 reports on the city online reporting, 7 via email, 7 via phone. Okay, 2 did not leave their names. Again, all of the reports that we get are recorded. And over the last 3 months, everything that we get that isn't on the city's website is entered on the city's website on behalf of the noise reporter or the overflight reporter by my staff. It's all there, it's transparent, it's easy enough to take a look at. So everything that we get is out there. If you're you don't believe me and you want to be sure that your report is done, you go on the city website and you fill out the form, and that cuts our staff out of it, and it's on the city's site, and it's there forever, as far as I know. So that's what is going on, but be honest, we bend over backwards to make sure everything is recorded.
Rich, since I just can add to that and verify, I get copied, as does Rich, directly on anything that's filed using the city's system. In fact, I think the way it comes through in my emails, new request received. And so those go directly to Rich and to me. And sometimes I get a request received message and it was entered by D. Meyer. So that's Rich's assistant, office manager.
Office manager. during
Office
the
manager,
week.
I didn't know,
Yeah.
I didn't
Oh,
know
yeah.
her title,
Yeah.
sorry. And
Appreciate it.
so,
Yeah.
and so sometimes I will see that from Dee Meyer, and sometimes I'll get 2 or 3 in a day. That's when she's basically catching up, and sometimes the complaints have, 10 different reports on them from different times. And so those are all logged. She's typing all those into the city's system.
Mhm. Yep, we're going ahead and taking that on because it's a little easier to search that than it was our file that we still keep in a loose leaf binder. And if you would like to come down and look at it, you're welcome to do so. You cannot take it out of the building though. Okay. Looking at airport safety, no accidents or incidents on the field. One safety seminar online was conducted by Maury Airplane Company staff. It was about traffic, handling the traffic pattern in a non-towered environment. So we're trying to get the word out on continuing education. McFarland's has been here. They dropped off this skid steer with the beautiful brush mower on the end of it. They've been training their people on it. The waterways that were designed to be clear of brush are being cleared of brush. They're going to have to take the unit back. Someone wants to rent it. They're looking to buy one. This is a demo unit. They'll bring it back and they'll finish it up probably by the middle of April. We should have all of the work done here. It costs us so far 1 tank full of of diesel fuel. And that's all it's going to cost us. That's the best deal in the world out here. And we really have to thank Ms. Carr Randall for bringing this up with McFarland's and getting the ball rolling on doing this project. As a note, I know the FAA says we do discourage the larger wildfowl and deer and whatever from the airport, but this airport makes a great breeding ground for some prairie species, including things that are threatened. I didn't realize that meadow larks were officially threatened because I would see them every day all summer out here. Just happy to see these animals come back. We're especially fond of the killdeer that nest out here. Every airport, I think, in the Midwest has killdeer. They're wonderful birds. Okay. As for our people in west of here in alignment with the runway, the instrument approach procedures that are flown are safe. They've been deemed safe by the FAA. The altitudes have been deemed safe by the FAA. They're checked once or twice a year by the FAA. People do use them for practice. I keep my people at 1,900 feet, which is a pattern altitude, as opposed to going down to the minimums, which could be as low as 1,450 or thereabouts, but that altitude is just off the end of the runway. But as it tapers down. But yes, there are step downs out there. Again, they are approved by the FAA, and we have currently 4 instrument approach procedures. By August, we'll only have 3 instrument approach procedures into this airport. Any questions about anything that's on my report?
Oh, Rich, just a quick question. So the ATA is in, remind me, I haven't looked at this sectional in a while. The ATA is in a Class DE airspace. Is that correct?
We are G and E airspace, G surface area, E above that, and then at 2,300, we go to a Charlie airspace, but that only extends about 2 miles west of the airport.
But in the when you're working the traffic pattern, and I apologize, I haven't been keeping up with my FARs. The transponder isn't required, right?
No, a transponder is not required, and we do get a lot of or aircraft that do not have transponders. Some aircraft that don't have electrical systems in them, although most have handheld radios. I am completely puzzled as to why anyone would be turning on and off the transponder in the pattern. I think if an aircraft is doing so, I would think it's some kind of electronic glitch or some issue with the flight recording software, but I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, we're all operating with transponders on here because most of the aircraft, most of my rental fleet has the traffic advisories built into it. Other
Sure,
than,
they have the traffic advisory. My aerobats, my competition aerobats and all that, I didn't have any of that equipment in there.
no.
Just weighs it down and it gets beat up anyway. So you just take everything out, right? Including all the gyros.
Yeah,
So
but
I had to operate in and out of the appropriate airspaces. I never had
Right.
transponders on anyway.
Right, but you're in a nice box dedicated to aerobatic practice when you're out doing that, right? Yeah.
Right. When I was in the right box, but I mean, transitioning back and forth to the airports, I couldn't use. I'd either have to get waivers if I were going into Class C or B airspaces, which I did quite often, especially San
Okay.
Francisco International or in Moffett Naval Air Station when we did air shows up
Oh,
there. But
okay.
I didn't have transponders in these planes, so I just didn't use them.
No, and that's the whole point is above and beyond anything is always see and avoid. You can't count on the transponder, can't count on the traffic advisories, can't even count on the air traffic controllers always. You always have to have your eyes open because the flock of sandhill cranes doesn't have a transponder. You got to watch out for, or geese or all of that. And that's the way we've operated. Again, we have the technology now. We're getting better and better that way, but you still need to be looking outside the bird, as I'm sure you'd agree with me, Kevin. So,
A couple of comments and then we'll move on. I think that transponders work by a request and acknowledge. So if for some reason or another that one doesn't get a signal in one direction or the other, it's not going to broadcast out the altitude and the location. So there's also, it's more complicated than just a piece of equipment sitting in your aircraft. The other comment I have has to do with the reporting. I mean, we want people to go to the website and record their complaints. It's indelible. It's part of the city's public record. And if you question whether or not it's actually there or not, then request a call, right? Then you'll know it's there because somebody will have acknowledged it by a call back. So again, your main point should be the city's website. Any additional questions or comments before we move on? Okay, let's move on to the next line if we could. Airport financials, there's not a lot really going on here. We did receive, I think I suggested at the last time that we were going to get a check back for 137,000. We did get that back a couple of days ago. Actually, it was 2 checks. Everything is pretty much on track. I don't see anything abnormal here. So I don't think there's any new news here. Any questions about that? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the next item. Mark, where are we at on the trees and our approaches?
I have tremendous news to report.
Tremendous news report? Well, that's incredible.
We worked with the 2 property owners, and in the past month, both of the obstructions that were identified by the FAA have been, they were trees, obviously. They have been pruned within the proper time that oak trees need to be pruned before the growing season.
Yeah.
And so both of those have been addressed. And I haven't told you this yet, John, because I just got this email in the last hour.
Yeah.
Surveyor, we're going to have both of them surveyed. The cost is going to be $665 from Michelle Burse.
Yeah.
In the next 24 to 26 days, she thinks she's a licensed surveyor who will then be able to provide a documentation to the FAA that these obstructions have been ameliorated.
Right. So the first part is to trim the trees and the second part is to survey them to get the exact coordinates and send the report in certified by a certified land surveyor, that in fact we did cut those trees and that we got the right ones. So good. And that process will be done soon. Great. We don't have any other trees left that on our list of things that we need to take care of. They're all
No,
done now.
all the other ones on the list, as I've said now a couple times, just to reassure everybody that the other trees that were identified on Highwood Circle, we do not need to address because that, as Rich reported a few minutes ago, one of the approaches is going to be decommissioned,
Yes.
the OR approach, and that was what was interfering with, or that's what triggered the obstruction report.
Yes.
And with that going away, the FAA has said, I mean, I kind of frankly dragged my feet so that this would happen,
Yeah.
to be honest. So, yeah, so we do not have to go onto anyone else's property
Perfect.
with this round of observations from the FAA.
Sure.
Hopefully we won't have to again for a long time.
I hope so. So anybody have any questions about this topic? Mark?
I would just say thanks, Mark, very much for your diligence on that.
No problem. By not being as prompt, we bought ourselves some time and were able to avoid having to affect 5 property owners, which is kind of what I was hoping for. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Great.
I would like to add that, this is the kind of thing that we need to do for our grant assurances to
Yes.
keep these approaches clear. And if we had not followed through, then our federal funding would have been in jeopardy. So.
And I appreciate you saying that, Rich. I want to emphasize that I didn't intentionally drag my feet on it. What happened is when we found out last February about the list and we're trying to figure out, pinpoint which trees they were, by the time we could deal with it, it was the growing season had started and these were oak trees. So I want to emphasize to people that I wasn't intentionally trying to circumvent. But then as we got into this winter, I found out that this approach was being decommissioned. So just from a timing standpoint, it worked out that way. So I didn't mean to make it sound like I was intentionally not. I appreciate Rich's reminder.
Okay.
We appreciate you, Mark. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, let's move on to the next item. Again, Mark, you're up on the knock boxes. You and Rich, maybe you can update us.
Yeah, this is something that I thought I had taken care of and set in motion last summer. And then I found in an email that I had not. So I followed up with Rich, who's following up with the fire department. And I don't think he's heard back from them yet.
I have not, but we need to buy 3 boxes. We need to make sure the tumblers are set to the Middleton Fire Department and EMS's keys.
Yes.
And then we'll have to get the posts and mount them. It will make sense for the city to purchase them versus Maury Airplane Company to buy them and ask for reimbursement, because then the city, being an exempt entity, would not have to pay the sales tax.
When I met with the fire department said that they had a special price that they could get them at, being a fire department. So my assumption was, and I think he confirmed that during our conversation, it should be in my minutes, that the fire department was going to get it and the fire department is going to be reimbursed by the airport fund.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, so I would, if you need me to remind them of our conversations, I'm more than happy to do that, just to keep things moving along. And I think we made sure that everybody knew that on the field, the only people that can open those boxes is EMS, the fire department, and the police department. Maury Airplane Company, no one else has a key. So the depositing of the keys will have to be accompanied by the police department or somebody to open the box and put them in. So everybody should get a degree of comfort from that their keys are not really available to anybody. So any questions on the issue of the Knox boxes that you'd like to ask Mark or Rich or me? Great. With that, we'll move on to the last item that we have discussed today, and that's the AD for the airport terminal. Rich, you originally made a request to the city.
Yeah, there's a little misunderstanding, but we cleared that up. I wasn't looking for a spare or a free one. I just wanted to know where to buy one. Again, this makes sense. The city EMS or fire department or through just city agencies have a special deal. They have units that they have in all the buildings. They want the same unit here would make sense. I just have to get back with or hear back from the powers that be about ordering one, having the city order it and charging it to the airport commissions or airports non-lapsing fund. And then I would very much like to get some training done out here. Also, again, up to the airport commission, but we do have some donated funds that I've been asked to manage, and this seems like a good use for that funding as opposed to dipping into the non-lapsing funds. If you guys are okay with that, we can. We've probably got enough money in donations toward the airport and the terminal from the Friends of Maury Airport that we could purchase that.
You know, it might be a little more awkward to do that. You might save those funds for something else. I mean,
Okay.
This is something that's, I'm assuming you're going to put this in the lobby area. Is that
We are.
right? And so if the city purchases to the fire department or the police department, the funds will more easily flow if the city just deducts it out of the airport fund rather than to try to bill you and do a transaction, I would think. So that would be my suggestion. They're not that expensive.
What is the
I
cost?
actually have one in my house. I have one in my kitchen. A fairly nice one. I think they're $1,500, $1,700, something of that nature. And and they're easy to run. Push the button and follow the instructions, and hopefully you don't have to think about it too much. They make it simple, so it could work. So I think what number did you have in the top of your? What do we need to approve, Rich? Do you have an estimate?
I think it's in the neighborhood of 1,500, but that is I haven't gotten a word back actually from the fire department who I sent off an email to. So yeah, if we could get approved for up to 2,000, and I'm sure it'll be less than that. We'll just do what's available.
I'd like to make a motion that the airport purchase an AED for the common area of the terminal building to be funded by the airport non-lapsing fund, not to exceed $2,000.
John, this is Luke. I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Did you
so
say not to exceed 2,000? Is that what you said?
not to exceed 2,000?
Yep.
If it does, then you go come back.
I'm having a harder time hearing you, John. I think you're a little farther from your mic.
Okay, sorry. So
Thank you. That's
I'll
better.
talk louder.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have, I made the motion as first. Luke has made a second. Are there any additional discussions about the AED device for the airport terminal?
I think what we'll do is that there'll be a recommendation to the council since this wasn't specifically budgeted. I'll deal with that, but it's basically you're recommending this as an airport fund.
Yeah,
expenditure.
I don't think that it needed to go to the council, but I'll let the city decide how to do it.
Yeah, I'm just saying
If it's small enough, I think that Bill could probably approve it, but
probably, but I just will have the motion reflect that it's a recommendation.
yeah,
if
it
that's
is a
okay with you.
recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, so is there any additional discussion on it? With none, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That's really it for my list. I don't really have anything that's pressing for the next agenda. We will have your open house for AMPAC. That will be on the 10th, and hopefully we'll get an update on that at the next meeting. And it'd be, I'm not sure when, it would be nice to know when AMPAC will conclude its meeting and develop the final work product, if you will, completing AMPAC's role. And then what I'd like to do when the time comes is consider either, I'd like to consider a special meeting of the Airport Commission. We deal with just that topic and see if we can conclude it in this one meeting, if you will. And so we can pass on the work onto the council for their determination. So we can discuss that procedures more next time, if you will, but that's kind of my preliminary thoughts. Anybody have any comments on future events or anything that we've discussed tonight?
This is Robert. You've already mentioned it, but just to make it clear to anybody listening in tonight, the Airport Master Plan Open House is scheduled for Saturday, April 10th from 9:30 to 12 noon. And so that's coming up in just a little over a week. If people want to easily find our webpage, we do have a dedicated webpage, www.cityofmiddleton.us/ and that's just one long word here, but it's Airport Open House. And by going to that website, you can watch videos of describing, the basic chapters and the basic ideas that are in the draft master plan. And thank you, it's on the screen. Yeah. And then just a reminder that for people, we will not be showing all of these videos at the open house. We're expecting people to view these videos in advance so that what we can focus on during the open house is actual feedback from the public. So that is the plan, and I think all the information is on that website of cityofmiddleton.us / airport open house.
Quick question, Robert. Do you folks have, will there be then one more meeting after the open house? Is that the plan?
Yes.
I would caution you about not getting too far astray from the, this is future events agenda items. And I know you're trying to,
I'm not planning anything. I'm just curious.
I think it's fair to say that AMPAC will be meeting again after this open house, because the purpose of the open house was to provide additional information to AMPAC. So by definition, there should be an AMPAC meeting sometime after the open house is complete.
Well, it would be useful, and I know that Rob, you folks have done it, is to try to telegraph, if you can, kind of what your plan is as it unfolds, so the Airport Commission kind of can develop its plan. I'd like to be very efficient and try to deal with this as crisply as possible. So now's the time to start thinking about how we might approach our work. So, sure. Okay, great. So anybody care to make the final motion for the night?
John, this is Luke. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, Luke has a motion to adjourn. Anybody care to second?
This is Ray, I'll second.
Ray will second. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's call it to a vote. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Opposed, same side. We now have set an official record for the Airport Commission of 38 minutes.